welcome back to Little Z Farm. I'm Katie. Today I'm going to be talking about infrastructure, chicken infrastructure, and what you need to protect and provide for your happy and healthy hens if you are raising chickens for eggs. If this is your first time visiting the channel, I wanted to just tell you a little bit about Little Z Farm. My husband and I moved out to these 40 acres from downtown Kansas City 5 years ago, and we had dreams of starting our own homestead and living kind of a self-sustaining life. We're still kind of just building that up and figuring out exactly what that looks like for us, but the first thing we did when we moved out here was get chickens. We knew that we wanted to raise chickens for eggs, and eventually we got into raising them for meat as well. But it all started with the eggs, because is there anything cooler than just going out in the morning, opening up the coop, and getting those farm fresh eggs? And just because I call them farm fresh doesn't mean you have to have a farm. If you haven't checked out the first two videos in this series, I will link them below. The first one goes through the kind of myths and legends about raising chickens for eggs. You can watch that one to find out what's true and what's not. The second video is all about picking out the chickens for your new flock and deciding which were gonna be the best fit for your family, and then also how to get started with baby chicks and everything that you need to start on that venture. So again, I will link them below. Make sure you check those out before you watch this one so it makes more sense. And subscribe to the channel. I'll be posting more videos like this one along with videos on just what's going on around Little Z Farm. Okay, let's get going here. You figured out what chickens you want for your family. So you acquired hens from an existing flock, or you've been raising the baby chicks from their first couple of days of life and they are ready to fly the coop, or they're ready to fly to the coop. Let's talk about what you're going to need. And I think we should start with the coop. The coop is home for your chickens. It's where they're gonna sleep, roost, and lay their eggs, and depending on the weather around your area and how you set up the coop and run, it may be where they eat and drink as well. There are many different types of coops out there, and you're going to want to consider where you live and how you plan to raise your hens as the determining factor on what type of coop that you want to use. A coop is where your chicken calls home. Home sweet home. And it's where they're going to be protected from the elements and from predators. The run refers to the space that's protected outside of the coop that gives your chickens an opportunity to roam outside during the day. Some people, when they say coop or refer to coop, they're also referring to the run. And so sometimes they're used a little bit interchangeably. For these purposes, when I say coop, I'm referring to the chicken's house. And when I say run, I'm referring to that kind of fenced area that's still completely protected from predators, that is outside of the coop, usually connected in some way that gives them an opportunity to range around and forage during the day, which is what chickens do best. Remember, they eat bugs. There are both mobile and stationary options for chicken coops. And when I say options here, I mean like endless. You can buy pre-made coops online or from local farm stores, but you can also just completely make them yourselves. And every coop that we have on this property is one that we have built ourselves. For stationary coops, think like old sheds, old trailers, kids' playhouses, or other small outbuildings that you can convert into a coop for your chickens. There are pallet wood coops, which I will show you briefly because we just bought one from someone on Craigslist. And then there are coops that are completely designed by you, or you can find a design online and build them from the ground up. That is what we have done here at Little Z Farm for our permanent coop and run structure. You can also have mobile coops, or they're called chicken tractors. Not actually a tractor. Honestly, a chicken tractor is going to be my recommendation for anyone starting with a backyard flock. The chicken tractor is usually connected to a small run. It's on wheels, or it's at least mobile, and usually that's moved around every day or every couple of days to give the chickens within the run more room to forage and move around in a clean new space. This is very effective for backyard farmers or for people who are just getting started with homesteading and they're not sure exactly where the chickens are going to end up. It's also great for situations where you want to have the chickens in the garden after the season to clean things up and get things ready for next year. Or if you're moving chickens to an area that's overridden with bugs and things like that that you want them to eat, a chicken tractor is very effective for that. And we also operate a chicken tractor here on Little Z Farm. You may decide that you want a permanent chicken coop for your chickens. Here at Little Z Farm, our main coop is stationary and it has a permanent run attached to it, a pretty large run. Our chickens are free ranged most days, which means that we let them out of the coop and the run and they walk around, sometimes bounce, sometimes fly. They walk around during the day scavenging for food and supplement to the food that we provide them every day. We love being able to provide this opportunity for our chickens. And what this means for us is that not only are our chickens getting that opportunity, but it's also cutting down on the cleaning and maintenance that we have to do inside their coop and run as well. Free ranging is not an option for everyone. And when you free range, sometimes you do lose chickens. We have a livestock guardian, Sweet Walter, other fencing, and things like that that kind of help make free ranging an option for us. We love being able to free range our chickens, and it was something that was really exciting for us when we moved out here to this property. We also have a really large run though, because sometimes it does not make sense for them to be free ranging. Like when we're out of town, or when we have new people coming over to the farm, when our livestock guardian is off duty, or if the weather is just too extreme. We're in Missouri, folks. So during that time, we keep them locked in the run, but we built it so that it could accommodate a lot of chickens. Free ranging our chickens or having them just in this large run has made it possible for us to avoid overcrowding and, also keep things clean. When it comes to chicken tractors, here at Little Z Farm, we have one very large chicken tractor. We use it for our meat chickens currently, but it could be used to house additional laying chickens in the future. I love that it's mobile, and when we had chickens in it, we would just go out and move it every couple of days so that our chickens could go home to a nice, clean, dry space. We also could keep them locked in there when we weren't ready to free range them. If you're raising chickens for eggs, you want your tractor to have a part that's completely enclosed. This specific tractor doesn't, but when you live in a moderate climate that changes regularly, it's best to have an area that the chickens can go to be completely protected from the elements and to lay their eggs. Many smaller chicken tractors have a run attached to the outside of the tractor, and that's a really effective way to manage and raise, a small flock of chickens that you may have in your backyard. It may simply not be possible for your chickens to be out roaming about. Chickens can fly. You can clip their wings, but they're still good little hoppers, and they can get up to some pretty high spaces. So whether you choose a permanent coop and run or a mobile chicken tractor with a run, there are a few things that are the same. You're gonna need a roost and you're gonna need laying boxes for your hens. Most prefabricated coops come with roosts and laying boxes, and about 5 hens will share a laying box. So you don't need a laying box for every single chicken. They're going to share. But if you don't have an appropriate number of laying boxes for your chickens, it cause some disruption in the flock and may in turn cause some pecking and picking between members of your flock. I almost said team. They're a team too. For the roost, you can simply use 2x4s or some other piece of wood that is elevated from the ground. It's instinctual for chickens to sleep above the ground to avoid predators. So even though you're providing them a space that is completely protected on all sides, they will need the roost to feel happy and secure. For our girls, we've noticed they like a little bit of privacy. And maybe we're just imagining that, but when we put these little curtains outside the laying boxes, they started laying better. It could have just been time of the year, but we left the curtains. For your laying boxes, you want to make sure that you have access to them. For ours, you can access on the outside, and as we grow our flock, we have additional laying boxes that we put into the coop. As you can see in our coop, it is just a divided area of wood boxes within the coop that we built. You could use little file storage, plastic containers, or things like that has straw. or other comfy bedding in there that they will basically nest to lay their eggs. I apologize for the goats. You're gonna wanna make sure that your coop has ventilation. So if you're using an old shed or something that doesn't have natural ventilation in it, you wanna make sure that you provide that for your chickens. We created ours to have little windows that we can open and close. When they're open, there is wire, chicken wire, so that it's still protected from predators, but allows for proper ventilation. During the winter, we often close these at night to keep as much heat as possible in the coop. And then we have them open during the day and open during the summer for the entirety of the summer. Chickens are very good at regulating their body temperature. There are some breeds like Frizzles and some other like Russian breeds that do not feather like many of the standard breeds that I've talked about in my previous videos, that are not as good for like cold weather environments. So depending on where you live, you just want to research that and make sure that you are getting chickens that best fit your climate. In the coop, you're going to want about 2 to 3 square feet per chicken. So when you are picking out a coop that's prefabricated, make sure that you keep that in mind. You may have a coop, and that may ultimately determine how many chickens that you can get if you already have something that you're planning on using. We have found that having adequate space outside also helps with this. So we've been able to push that number a little more without causing disruption in the flock and making everyone unhappy. Dominant chickens will assert their dominance even more so in times when they don't have enough adequate space. For the run, if you have a permanent run attached to your coop, think about 8 square feet per chicken. If you have a mobile chicken tractor that you're moving around, that space can be a lot smaller because you're gonna be moving that every day, every other day, and it's literally like pulling it. It's not hard to move it. And your chickens are gonna have access to new area, new places to forage, and a clean space daily. So the amount of space outside ends up not being as big of a deal. When you're thinking about what type of coop you have, think about what predators that you have in your area. At Little Z Farm, we have a lot of different types of predators. We have coyotes, bobcats, foxes, possums. Snakes will try to go in to eat eggs. They're not looking to get the chickens, but they are looking to get the eggs. And a myriad of other types of predators. When you're selecting what sort of wire you want to use for your run, or what sort of ventilation, or how protected it's going to be, think about the size and the strength of the predators that are on your property. You do not want a coop that can easily be dug under because, coyotes and other types of dogs will dig to get into a coop. Our permanent coop and run, the posts are buried, and we have actual fencing that goes underneath the surface so that it is hard to dig under. If you don't have the opportunity to do that, just think about the weight of your run and your coop, and you want it to be light enough that you can move it, but heavy enough that predators cannot. And when it comes to things like foxes are sneaky and they can get into spaces. So when you're selecting that fencing and netting that you're using for the run, just keep that in mind. We have found that this welded wire works great. It's really small. Traditional chicken wire will work as well. It's just not as sturdy, so it just really depends on the type of structure that you are creating. Remember when the weather gets bad that your chickens probably won't want to go outside much, and that's another reason that it's really important that they have adequate space inside. Our coop here looks like a little elevated house, and we built this because we knew that we were going to be raising more and more chickens, and we wanted to have a really nice, secure, permanent place. I think chicken tractors are a great option, and here's the giant chicken tractor that we used for our meat chickens. And I really like the flexibility of this, and really it's the only option for us if we want to move chickens around the farm. We will use this and some electric netting to kind of contain new flocks. I'm excited about this coop because it was handmade by someone using pallets and wood that they had, and it's actually a really sturdy, secure structure, and they did it all for like probably $50. We are going to be using this coop up in the goats' permanent paddock, and it will house our bantams. And we are going to have 4 to 6 bantams in this particular coop. At Little Z Farm, we are strong proponents of chickens having time and space outside to roam. That's what chickens are meant to do, and that's how they are happiest and ultimately healthiest. My advice is always to plan to arrange for a run that you will have either attached to your coop or that you will move around with it. I'm going to talk more about things for your coop and how to have happy and healthy hens in the final segment of this series, Raising Chickens for Eggs. Are you going to be using a permanent structure? Are you going to be using a chicken tractor? This was pretty general information on coops and runs, but I wanted you to have somewhere to get started. Let me know what questions you have, and I will try to respond in the comments below. As always, thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the Little Z Farm YouTube channel below so that you can catch the next part in the series and follow along with us as we build our homestead. Talk to you all soon.